I think especially early companies, think about what you want to price and price triple.
Coffee's for closers only.
So we've established my proposal is sound in principle. Now we're just haggling over price.
Let's see how much we're going for on eBay.
Man, it's the same as Dunkin' Donuts. Costs 15 times the price.
Welcome to Impact Pricing, the podcast where we discuss pricing, value, and the visible relationship between them. I'm Mark Stiving. Today, our guest is Matt Barnett. Here are 3 things you want to know about Matt before we start. He is an artist. He takes fantastic photos. If you go online and look at what he's done, they're incredible. He's the CEO and founder of Bonjoro, which he founded in 2017. And probably the best thing is he's willing to talk to us about his new pricing. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, Mark. Great to be here.
Hey, did I say Bonjoro right?
Bonjoro. That's it. Yeah.
Okay, good. So, I've got all these questions I really want to ask you, but before I ask any of them, I just want you to tell me, first off, what does Bonjoro do? And then secondly, what did you do in terms of pricing? What do you think is important for us to know about what you did in pricing? And then we'll dig into pieces of it.
For sure. So Bonjoro, essentially a layer that sits on top of your CRM or customer data source. And what we do is at certain points on a customer journey, we've discovered that sending personalized individual video messages instead of just email or calls are highly effective at helping leads convert to clients, helping customers engage and activate, and then obviously driving word of mouth and advocacy reviews, that kind of thing. So if you're using a Salesforce, we'll plug it in and say, hey, look, at this time, why don't you send George Patterson a 1-minute video and just say, welcome on board, ask me if he needs help, and show who you are. And then we'll track all those results and drive actions from them.
And the video works much better than sending a text email saying, hey, welcome aboard or something like that.
Yeah, look, at certain points on the customer journey, like this face-to-face stuff, actually stopping for a minute and being like, it's me, I'm a human. That's what it's about.
Nice. Okay, so you just changed pricing. Tell us what you did or what you thought was interesting or important about it.
Yeah, so let's give some background. We're a SaaS model, so we're B2B. We price based on tiers and users. So to start with, we kind of 3 years in. So we had 2 tiers. Well, 3. We have a free plan. So we're a freemium. And I'll come back to that because we use freemium probably for a different reason than most people. And it's as a pricing test. We then have a $25 a month plan and a $45 a month plan. If you want to add additional users, the additional users on $25 plans are $25, and on the 45, we discount them to $15. Now, the reason behind that was that once you get to a team of 3 or more, it makes sense to go on the larger plan because everything's $75. So that's a metric to try and drive users onto the higher plan, which has more value. Within those tiers, we have certain feature sets, and there's some pro features. Obviously go on the higher plan, and there's a piece that we call templates. So where you're sending messages, you're using pre-built templates. And this is one of the value metrics that we scale up with the plan. So we have a number of these templates on the 25 and then more on the 45. Now, that's how the plan was. When we look into pricing, generally what we found over kind of the last, 6 months, and we do quite a lot of pricing tests, to be honest, but we would find that with these tiers, we were missing out on, kind of 2 ends of the spectrum. So we identified that we have a smaller user base. So, we have big teams, but then we also have a lot of what I would call almost kind of micro users or individual users who are creatives, who are just getting started in business, photographers, first-time founders. And for those, $25 a month is just at the top limit of their pricing points. And so what we would see here is that we potentially wouldn't convert as many, or that some of them will convert and then our churn on that lower plan is much, much higher. And it was mostly these smaller users. So after doing a bunch of research, pricing, I think in terms of churn, real churn, probably pricing was about 25% of the reason. And obviously, if someone just tells you that pricing is the reason they churn, dig deeper. Yeah, like it's really price to value matching. That's how we like to think of it. So what we did.
So there's
Yep.
always two sides to every decision, right? If I'm going to buy or
Yeah.
if I'm going to churn, it's what's the price, what do I have to put out, and what do I get? And
Exactly,
so there's always two sides. Someone says your price is too high. It really just means I didn't see the value to cover or justify that price.
Yeah, and so again, like digging deeper for the value that we had, I would try boosting values, but there will always be some price sensitivity.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll always have a user whereby, at the end of the day, even with the product as it is and boosting the value as much as you can, there's still a price point that they will hit. And yeah, the research we kind of looked into it, we said, look, there seems to be room here for a lower price point. It's above the free plan because they want some of the paid value underneath the $25 plan. Let's give this a test. However, obviously, when you do something like this, well, I feel like I'm going straight into all the detail here. Is this fine?
No, we're doing well. So some of the questions I have, I got so many questions about this. When you added the lower price tier, did you get people who used to buy your $45 product to move down to the lower price?
So that's literally exactly where I was going next. So the challenge here is if you release a lower pricing tier, obviously what you want to do is minimize any cannibalization of the higher tiers. So the way we did that is that when you release a new pricing plan as well, you're not just changing pricing. So with us, we released 3 new plans. So these plans had different price points, but also different value metrics within them. So we don't see it as a shift of pricing. We see it as where we launched a whole new pricing packaging piece. That $15 plan, we never had limits on messages before, but one of the things we discovered is that these small users really weren't sending many messages a month. So we used to have unlimited. Most of them are sending probably on average, I think around about a message a day. So call it 30 messages a month because they obviously have a much smaller customer base. So we put a limit in of 50 videos. So 50 video messages, bear in mind these are one-to-one, they could send a month. And as a result of that, we were able to release this lower pricing tier. We also did a few other things on value. So this message template thing I mentioned, we just had one of those because they only have one thing that they're doing. It's very simple. So we released that. We did not see many downgrades at all.
Nice.
Because that 50 video limit. Now that limit...
Did you step back and look at your usage data to see how many people were using or which types of customers were using how much of what features in order to make these decisions? Yeah,
exactly. So we track a lot of our feature data. We use Amplitude and Metabase to kind of dig into that. So seeing the uptake, to be honest, again, mentioning we have some scalable things like these templates. There's a few other things such as additional branding, removal, some one to many messages features. So there's some pro features that we really put into the higher pricing tier before we start to drop the price. So what we do is really, really bolster this high pricing. And the high pricing is part of the strategy. While, let's say, releasing something on the low tier that is discounted to prevent cannibalization, but something that we know works for these low users. Now, just to kind of think where to go next. There's one interesting thing that came out of this, which is that because we have a freemium tier, and the reason that I would come back to this is because we don't have a huge active user base on free. Most of our active users are paid. And the reason being that the value on the paid is so much higher. So unlike a traditional freemium, the reason we have it, and we tested not having a freemium at all and just having a paid trial. So we have a 14-day trial on all plans regardless. So even if they end up being free, they still get to try out the pro features for 14 days. We simply found that when we dropped the free plan, our sign-up rate halved, which is a big difference. And when we tested dropping this, obviously the thought was, that's fine if it halves because the quality of sign-ups will be higher. What we found is that our conversion rate to paid did not spike enough to offset the halve in sign-up rates in the first place. So in layman's terms, essentially what we found was that by having a free offering, we were getting people who were going, well, there's no strings attached. I'll try it out. They were using it and then going, this is better than I thought it would be. And they're going, actually, I do want to pay. And so we were capturing more users than we would have done without a freemium, which is one of the best arguments for having it. Again, to that stage, what's happened is we look at it and we go, well, generally, if someone's active, they end up paying.
Yeah.
And the one that I mentioned this is because by dropping the limits on this new $15 plan, we actually had to go and drop the limits on the freemium was unlimited too. We actually had to put a limit on that as well. And one of the impacts you see then is that then our conversion rate on the pricing page, because we now had a limit on the free plan, dropped, but our conversion rates paid went up by 50%.
Yeah, I think that's pretty awesome. I'm sitting here looking at your pricing page right now as we're talking. And the only thing that's different between your $15 plan and your freemium plan is the fact that you get rid of the Bonjoro branding. I get my custom. Now, you also get a template, but I still don't even know what that is yet, so it doesn't have any value to me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But if I get rid of the branding, what that says to me, I'm going to put myself in the shoes of one of your buyers for a second. And they said, oh, I really like this idea of sending video out because it builds a better rapport with my clients. And every time I send out this video, it's got a Bonjoro brand on it. You mean for $15 a month, or let's call it 50 cents an email, I could put my own brand there instead of their brand? That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? And,
yeah.
So I think that's a reasonable approach.
It is. Probably the reason why our freemium does convert higher is because doing personalized video messages is not the norm. Even though we've been around for 3 years, it's a new thing. Most people just don't do this. So when they get in, the fact we have these things called templates, you obviously with the products end up building your own kind of language and in what your things do. It can be hard to communicate that at first. We actually convert pretty well because a lot of our traffic comes through direct, through word of mouth, through influencers. So people coming and going, look, I know this is something I want to do. I don't quite get how it works. The whole idea of running on a CRM is actually quite hard to get across to people. So what you do find is that when people come in, they're like, oh, that's what that means. Oh, that's what that means. And so maybe we could definitely be better at communicating this online. And as we grow and learn, our communication gets better and better online anyway. But you kind of hook them in. They go, well, there's no bars. I'll come in. And then they see these templates things and they go, okay, now I'm using it. That makes sense. So yeah, the other thing is if your product is slightly more complex and as isn't that simple, it's not just about doing videos for the sake of it. Yeah. You start to push these value metrics once they're within the platform and they're kind of hooked. And that's obviously so we do better at that probably than we do at communicating in the first place.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk about pricing metrics for just a second. So you use the word value metrics. I hear that. And I think you mean the exact same thing I mean when I say the words pricing metrics. So let me define both terms, if you don't mind, just to make sure that we're using the same language. I think we're both calling the idea that says, oh, I could charge by the thing, right? It's a scalable thing, and I know what I can. And so I usually define a pricing metric as, what are you going to charge for?
Yeah.
Now, I don't use the word value metric for that. I only use the word value metric to mean, how do my customers measure how much value I gave them? So I usually say a good value metric fills out the following formula. I love Bonjoro because my blank went from blank to blank.
Yeah.
And so that would be the way I would define a value metric.
Yeah, exactly. I think probably the reason we call them value metrics is because of that point earlier where we said about churn, and we've kind of still where it's if someone says price, what they mean is the price to value match. So I think it's probably internally we call it value because we want everyone thinking, oh yeah, what's the value that's linked to the dollar? And at the end of the day, with products, with everyone else, I'm like, look, here's the deal. Deliver value to the customer and we'll price around that value. And that price matters. So I'd rather have this team thinking of value, but maybe maybe we should say pricing. I don't know.
No, it's totally up. But by the way, I think you're 100% right to say, I want the team thinking about value.
Yeah.
Right. Because what we want to do is we want to set our pricing metrics to be highly correlated with our customers' value metrics. Right. How does a customer perceive value? Oh, we can deliver more value with this thing. Doesn't matter what that is. So, yeah. Okay. So I wanted to talk about pricing metrics for a few minutes because you use a lot of different pricing metrics. So you've got per user as a pricing metric. You've got the number of videos as a pricing metric, how many workflows I could use, how many templates I could have. Now, the only one that you charge on a linear scale is the user, and all of the other ones are bundled into the tiers.
Yeah.
Right. From a pricing metric perspective. Did you guys, what was the meeting like when you figured all this out? Did you sit down and brainstorm what are all the different pricing metrics we could use, or how did this come about?
Yeah, no. So this has been over 3 years of testing.
Mm-hmm.
So this was no meeting. It's many tests. It's understanding our user base. Look. Pricing is also packaging, as I'm sure everyone here understands. So like I said, when you bundle up plans, and we're looking at it, some of these are genuine metrics that are there to scale a pricer up. Some of them are more around packaging, where we say, look, well, let's bolster, for optics reasons, these certain plans to this point. Now, not all of our features will be used by all of our users. So on our highest plan, we have something called a roll-up, which is basically a one-to-group message. And this is because larger users have much higher volumes of customers coming into their funnel. And so we say, look, and when they get in there, we say, look, out of your 100 customers that sign up today, only 10 of those really need a one-to-one message because they're your priority leads. The other 90, just send them a more of an up-to-date message saying, hey, it's Tuesday morning. So it's still unique and it's still refreshed, but it's maybe not, hey, John, I saw you sign up from Active Campaign. Now, that's something that appeals to the larger customer base specifically, but we have customers on the larger plan who don't necessarily use that as well. So I think one of the things with packaging here is that you start to understand different customers probably have different feature sets that they will work with, especially if you have a diverse customer range. So how do you add value on multiple different, what's one for, like points that, customers X, Y, and Z who are all large will all say, hey, that bigger plan is for me, even though I'm only going to use one of those 3 things.
Yep.
So this is a bit of a challenge. Is around that. Like I said, one of the things you have as well with a more complex product is that people are coming in and saying, well, I don't quite know where I'd use more than one workflow. And they come in and they go, oh, actually, now I get it. Yeah. But there's an education piece there.
Yep.
So, talk to that, I guess.
Yeah. So when we think about, I actually separate, usually when I do pricing for subscription companies, I separate out pricing metrics versus packaging because they're 2 different things. Oftentimes we have a feature. So for example, your feature that says I could do one-to-one or I could do one-to-many. So that's a feature that it's tough to scale that. And I would just call it, where am I going to put that in my good, better, best packaging program?
Yeah.
And so I separate those out usually, but when it's time to do packaging, which has got to be one of the hardest things in all of this, I love using usage data to see which clients get the most value and which clients pay me more for the product. Right. And so that's really where I start to tease this stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I really like what you guys are doing here. Now, the company, if there's one company that I look at all the time for the way they do pricing, because I think they're phenomenal, and that's LinkedIn. And so they do something really similar to what you've done, where you've got the free plus a 3-tier on top of each one of those plans. 2 things they do that I don't see here, and maybe you do it somewhere that I haven't seen, is they do market segments and they do options.
Explain this a little bit more.
Yeah, so let's do options first because that one's easy. An option essentially says, oh, I'm buying the pro plan, but I really want this other capability. Could you sell me that capability a la carte, one piece at a time? And so do you guys do options at all?
No, we don't right now. We've talked about this and where we like the pricing to get to. I do like the options thing. So a lot of things that we use, we like, so my favorite on pricing is probably Intercom. Intercom's a CRM. We use them. Like, I'm at the point where I'm like, I kind of hate paying them, but I keep paying it. So that's like, that to me is like, as a business, I look at that and I go, that's good pricing because I don't hate it enough to leave, but they extract every single dollar from me that they could possibly get. Like they're on the cusp and they test this and they go, sometimes they go over too much. And I'm like, hey guys. And they're like, okay. We're gonna have a discount.
Right.
And we have a big customer base, so we pay a lot, but they do, I mean, their pricing is actually quite complicated. And they do really good with pricing separate products and then options on products. And then they also do a scalable metric where they have pricing based on user base as well. Yeah. And they communicate it well because they don't communicate all that at first. So you kind of uncover pricing as you discover it. The options thing for us, so we obviously have some things like this idea of templates and workflows, things will set up. When you start to get into real power users, they're going, hey, I've got a team of 10, each wants 5 templates. How do I get 50 templates? Now those we tend to just do custom pricing, or I come up and say, hey, look, that's fine. We'll just sort something for you. Now, is there a point to have like plus more? We're looking at SMS as a delivery service. Now, if we do that, not that we would do cost plus pricing, so I think that's a way to price, but there obviously is a direct scalable cost associated with that. So the pricing needs to take that into account. So if we do that, are they buying 500 messages, 1,000 messages on top? I think, additional bundles are great. I don't think we've quite solved. So the pricing you see there is still in flux. I don't think we really solved that core pricing. And we want to get that first because I think, as you know, if you test too much stuff at once with pricing, something changes. You're like, this is great. Which of those changes was it?
Right. Well, and LinkedIn has been around forever. So they've had plenty of time to test and tweak and adjust. And so absolutely. Yeah. One ways to think about options is oftentimes I want to take a feature and make it an option. First off, it has to be really valuable because I don't want to have a ton of nickel and dime type options. What a pain in the derriere that is. But if it's really valuable, but not everybody in a tier wants it or would use it, then I would say, okay, that makes sense as an option. And so I would almost think that you would want to consider that I want to send a single email out to a bunch of different people at once. You could possibly make that an option, still leave it in the high-end tier, but say, look, if you're in one of the lower tiers and you want this capability, here you go. You can buy this. It's only, whatever it is, $10, 15, $20 a month, something like that. And that would fit there because of that reason.
I think again, given the fact that we're quite early in the company, I mean, 3 years to me is still early in terms of a product. So I think one of the things here is to get to a stage where if we end up with the 3 plans or the 4 plans with the 3, those are right price to value matched as a base. And then we can start to add things on there that as further segmentation. I actually do think our higher plans honestly need a bit more bolstering in terms of feature sets. So I think as we do that, we have a few things coming out that we're planning around this. As we do that, then maybe some of those things we have in there currently, because we built them earlier, can then start to come out as option basis. But I think taking them out right now probably degrades the value of those plans. So it's a thing of a bit of a balance of going right. What are the core feature sets that really do a value to all customers? And then we can start to pull out the ones that maybe only 40%, need. All the 40% on the lower plans could do, but they're still missing something that the higher plan has. Yep. And so this is probably like rounding out those plans, which as you build from a small product to a larger product, you start to get, because in the beginning on day one, you probably got one pricing plan because you have, one feature.
One product. Yeah, here we go.
Oh, yeah.
No, you're absolutely spot on, right? You want to start small and we're going to tweak it and add to it and change it and make it a little bit more complex. But I would avoid complex, right? No matter what you do, you want to keep it looking simple to your customers.
Yeah. I look at it as now and I'm like, it's probably still, again, like it's in flux. I don't think the packaging is quite right. I don't think the pricing is quite right. Yeah, we still have some tests to do. And in 6 months' time, it probably won't be right again because the other thing is your customer base changes. Like as you grow and as you mature, we're starting to bring on bigger clients. So we're like, well, and this is the other point is that we then also, when we did the pricing change, we actually released a higher pricing plan because we realized that to our larger clients, the product's cheap.
Yep.
And in terms of a brand perception point of view, that's not a good place to be. I mean, it's hard to go kind of where we are because we tend to be a product that's used, for like lead conversion. What that means is we're not limited to an industry and we're generally not limited to a customer size. And the challenge with that means that we have customers who are huge and we have customers who are tiny. And so at the moment, we are trying to span both ends of the spectrum. Now, at some point, you might decide, right, we're going to focus at one end or the other. Companies do this really well. Like MailChimp's, I think, a good example whereby they have, entry pricing, like really good entry pricing, but they have customers who are guaranteed probably pay them $50K a month. Yeah. So it can be done, and when your tool is used as the job to be done rather than as an industry type, that's an option. But it is hard to package to meet both needs. Jira's, I think Atlassian's one that does this really well as well.
Yeah. So when I look at your type of product, I think what comes to my mind are companies like Slack and Zoom, right?
Yeah.
Where I get a lot of value out of having a freemium product as an individual, but as a company, I could support it for my entire team.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, and it also depends how you go into your client. So how are you selling in? Are you top down and bottom up? And we sell in bottom up. So we're adopted by team members, and then we're taken up the organization. We don't really do outbound sales. We don't go out to big companies and pitch them and then get it integrated because it's too slow. And Slack does this too. Jira, Atlassian does the same thing where they're coming, like developers use them, and then up you go.
Yep.
And so I think that's with that in mind. So Jira has great pricing whereby, so we use them. Yeah, we're a tech company. You may not have heard of them. So they're probably the biggest tech company out of Australia, a few billion, but they're basically a product for developers, so technical developers. They have, when you first come in, at like $10 a user, small tiers. As soon as you hit 3 users, it's like $30. Like, oh, this is fine. You hit 4 users, it goes from $30 up to like $150. And they basically, what they've done is they've gone, we know when you get past 3 developers, you're a different persona of company and your willingness to pay is much, much higher. Right. So we're just going to flip that switch. And it's really interesting when you do that because you flip it and you're like, oh, what happened there? But you're like, oh, we'll keep paying because the team wants to use it. And they do a really good job, but they're all bottom up selling. So they're all picked up by individual developers. And then at some point, 3 people on the team are using it and they're like, no, we can't stop using it to their manager.
Yep. Well, and I think they get away with that in a lot of ways because a product like Jira, there's a lot of internal collaboration in the company. So they want everybody on the same platform. And
exactly, yeah.
Where with yours, I could see one salesperson using it and other salespeople not using it. Or I just have a few doing it because it's not this internal tool we're using or relying on.
No, look, again, stage of the world as well. Not everyone's comfortable getting on video right now. So it's not something for everyone. It's quite a new thing. So you'll have certain personalities who will use it. Even in sales, the goal for us is to get to a stage whereby we're used in sales and then we're handed off and used in customer success, and then we're handed off and then used in retention. So, like to actually grow yourself so you're used at multiple stages of the company with different team members. That's kind of the growth for us because it's quite broad. With big teams, we're still going to get quite a few users. But I would say the product's not quite at the stage of like we're nowhere near enterprise level yet. Yeah. Like that brings its own challenges, and and our pricing is always obviously not built to reflect that. We've chosen not to go down that route
yet.
It's something that comes in time for us.
Yeah. I want to go back and revisit one more concept. I talked briefly about LinkedIn, and I said one of the things they do really well is market segments.
Yeah.
And so let me tell you what they do for market segments, and then what I see is possible with your site. So what they do with market segments is they've defined 4 really clear market segments. So they've got people, recruiters, salespeople, job seekers, and then everybody else in this bundle they call professionals.
Yeah.
And you could take any one of those. The one that has the highest willingness to pay is recruiters, obviously.
Yeah.
They charge recruiters a lot. But what they've done is they've packaged the product. They've added a few features that say, oh, this makes a recruiter's job really well, really good, really easy. And those are features that salespeople don't really care about. So they can bundle them in that segment. And once you go into one of their segments, they still have good, better, best, which is pretty cool. So what I could see in Bonjoro here is actually saying on your webpage, we built this for salespeople. Salesforce, right? Absolutely. So this is intended for you guys to be successful and sell more product. And here's how you do it. And you go out and you study salespeople and you see how they're using it. And we talk through them. And then later we say, well, you could use this for, and by the way, you could use this for recruiting. And so we go sell it to recruiters. Now it turns out salespeople are going to get more value than recruiters will. So we're going to charge salespeople more than we would charge recruiters. Yeah. And that's really the gist of market segmentation. Yeah.
I feel like we're at the stage where this is starting to make sense for us. So we're starting to do it with marketing. So we're starting to target, I guess, customer personas on this, and we're at scale now where it makes sense. The pricing, I think will follow later. Again, I still think we're a bit early on in terms of bolstering the product. Yep. We did it. So we did a while ago. We actually built a HubSpot integration. This is quite a while ago, and we put it on a higher tier because we knew that if you use HubSpot, your willingness to pay is much higher. Now we actually it didn't get as much usage as we thought. HubSpot actually wasn't our customer because it's marketers and we're not really a marketer's product. But at the time we were asked by a few users. So we took it off. But I think, when it comes to building out Salesforce, which actually is a big investment in terms of a build as well, I thought is to kind of maybe revisit that strategy at that time. But again, I think, the direction of the company right now is like, let's bed down what we do as a core before we start to go into other directions, because we've still got many unanswered questions.
Yeah. So please don't think I'm suggesting you go build a product this way. Right? My suggestion is first off, let me ask you this question. What title in a company uses your product more than any other title?
Customer success.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I would not have thought that. Awesome. Okay. Then you could take exactly what I just said, and instead of saying we go after salespeople, we say, look, I'm going to build my homepage, my entire product around customer success people. I'm going to teach customer success people how to be more successful because that's a market segment. And then later you could say, now I want to go take care of salespeople, or I want to go take care of recruiters. I want to go take care of whoever. But the key is when you understand who really values it, you can tweak the product for that specific role. And then you get to charge based on their willingness to pay, because different roles have different willingnesses to pay.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I did not expect customer success.
Yeah, so it tends to be a second point on the funnel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because at that point, putting in a minute at a time, and it's only a minute, but into every customer that's coming on board, like then the ROI pays off because they're already kind of qualified to that stage. And then what you're looking to do is really activate, and then so I keep them for the first 3 months. So
it's the whole onboarding piece. Maybe I should do this with my clients.
Yeah. This is the thing. Yeah. So it's the whole 6 times cheaper to keep a customer or to get $1 from a customer than to get a new one. I think one of the things a lot of people, we've kind of identified this, have a challenge with or drop the ball on is they go and do all the sales, they get new customers in, and then those customers leave in 2 months because they haven't been properly activated. They actually haven't got value. They've been sold, but they haven't actually got value. And so, even when I talk, I'm like, look, honestly, that's the point to change. So when you have new leads who've come in and downloaded white papers and they are engaged, you need to get them activated so they end up paying and buying white paper 2 to 10. If you have a SaaS product and they've actually gone and paid, like 3 months, they're still in danger of churning. So how do you get them to stay?
Yeah.
That's the piece. And that's when you put some human time in and you're like, hey, I'm Betty, I'm on CS. You got any questions, you just let me know. People are like, oh, this is great. This company cares. And then they get more engaged and they're like, okay, I'm going to invest the time this takes. That's where you're going to get the most bang for your buck initially.
Yeah, I like this. This is pretty cool. Nice. Okay, I have one last pricing question for you. I'm sorry, I got to go back to the pricing page real fast.
Go for it.
Yeah.
So and then can I ask you a question after that?
Of course you can. I have to tell you that I have a PhD in pricing. It's actually in marketing, but I like to say it's in pricing. And when I wrote my dissertation, it was on price endings. So it was on 99 cents essentially.
Okay, yeah.
And as I look at your prices, your high-end product is $79, your mid-tier is $39, and your low end is $15. Did you think about the price ending when you made those decisions, or what happened?
I don't think we thought about it a whole lot. We thought about doing $69, and then we're like, well, everyone's just going to laugh at us for that. So,
okay, you're probably right about that.
I think we thought about it. I don't think we thought about it enough. I think $15 we did. And we had some anchoring because when we first ever launched, we had some old information. When we first ever launched in our early beta, the first kind of 4 months, we had a $15 price plan, and those users we knew, even with a much simpler product, had value, and their churn was actually was pretty good for a very early stage product. So we had that anchoring and some information to help bolster that. 15 seemed right on talking to customers. You know, we started doing a few discounts for early users at 40% on 25, which was 15. So again, maybe we had some anchoring to that. It seemed to make sense. 39.79. I think, like anyone, we kind of just went, well, let's stop just shy of the decimal mark.
Yeah. So I think as a general rule, and there's research that shows this, when people see a just below number like 39 or 79, they actually think of that as this is a good deal, right? This is a good price. And the only reason I found it interesting here is because you didn't do that for the basic product, right? I would have expected that to be either 19 or 9.
Yeah, so I thought on that was that 19's too high, and 9's probably pushing it too low. And again, when you release a lower plan, obviously, and this is going into numbers, you look at that and you have to obviously project out and go, well, if we do this plan, what are the reasons behind it? If it's, you know, $25 to $9, even if you drop the metrics, the kind of value metrics, obviously you're dropping that price by whatever it is, 60%.
Oh yeah.
So if you're doing that, even if you're dropping churn, what is the lifetime value then of that customer? And, you know, are they going to move up the tiers and are they willing to pay? I think when you start to get below $20, like every dollar makes kind of a difference there to the success of that plan. And the whole point of this lower tier is to the actual value. The reason is to drop churn on those lower customers. So yes, convert some more importantly to drop churn on them. And then thirdly, to provide a stepping stone to move into the larger plans over time. Yeah. At $10, it's then all you're really thinking about is that last point, which is almost like the stepping stone. Like, doesn't make sense there.
Yep.
Look, maybe we'll try it. Maybe $14 is better. Like it's a tough one at that stage.
Yeah. I was just curious. I'm not saying it's wrong because there's no way to really know. But
other than changing it, like the only way to know, honestly, like we can sit in a room and theorize, and we theorize all, and you just end up like with 2 days talking about pricing, and you're like, you know what? Let's just change it for 4 weeks. If it doesn't work, we'll change it back. And if anyone has an issue, we can change their pricing afterwards. It's fine. You know, we're not of the scale of a brand where people can notice. I mean, Intercom, like famously, used to change their pricing, I think every 6 weeks for the first couple of years, and you can see that. Yeah, you can see that in the success of their pricing, that they've changed it a lot and they've experimented a lot. Have you
grandfathered in your old customers?
Yeah, so the way we do this, so our very, very first beta pricing we ever did, we actually grandfathered them in for life because we're like, well, you guys are the ones that came on board when no one had heard of us. Now at the stage, while we do pricing testing, we don't put a limit on grandfathering. So we don't, because we're not sure of it yet, because we haven't settled, right. We're just leaving them paying what they are. I think once we settle, we will probably look to grandfather them in over about 6 months. Okay.
But by the way, you're never going to settle. You're going to be price testing and tweaking forever.
I think right now we've been moving some pretty big levers.
Okay.
Like some pretty big ones. So we're like, wait, like take big swings. Because why not? And the bigger the swings, the quicker we get information about what's working, what isn't. I think once we've done that, we'll probably grandfather over 6 months. We might grandfather to a slight discount regardless. So you might still say, look, we'll grandfather you in, but we're still going to give you a 20% discount because you were there, and that doesn't matter. You shouldn't grandfather over life unless you have a clear, I think where grandfathering works unlimited is probably where you have a scalable pricing metric, if that's the right way of saying it. So it's like a MailChimp where their list is growing. And then if you grandfather them, it doesn't really matter because there's always you're not going for $20, but like in 2 years' time, they're going to be paying $4,000 anyway. Yeah.
Well, and that's really the key point to a pricing metric is that the more you use, the more we get paid.
Yeah. So, well, which is fine because at the end of the day, like we have to build product, we have to support a team, and the more revenue we make, the better the product we build. So it all kind of makes sense, which is why, when you asked us, you're like, are you happy to talk about pricing? I'm like, yeah, of course I am, because there's a reason we do this. It's to grow the company and grow the team and grow the product. So it's all done for the right reasons.
Yeah.
There's
Cool.
nothing to be ashamed of.
No, not at all.
So my question to you,
Go ahead.
if you could change, if you were to do one test, forget everything I've told you, if you look at that and go, right, next test for these guys, what would you suggest that we test?
Okay, so that's really hard for me to answer. but what I would actually do is I would sit down and say, let's see if we have the right characteristics, pricing metrics, levels of things. And before I just changed it and tested it, I would actually want to go look at different usage data, different customers. How much do they pay? How much value do I think they get out of my product?
Yeah.
I would guess, I was going to ask a question I don't want you to answer. Let's pretend like you have 1,000 customers. If you could go through 1,000 customers and you could make a gut call that says, on a scale of 1 to 5, here's how much value each one of these customers gets from our product. And then we turn around and say, okay, now these ones that have 5s, what are the features that they actually use? And what are the features they use the most of? And that's what would guide my next test.
Yeah.
Is can I figure out what's going on in my current market and tweak the things? Because I'm not a huge fan of randomly testing things. I want to come up with a hypothesis first that says, here's what I think is going on.
Yeah.
And then I would create the test.
Good. We're doing the right thing then.
Good.
Woo!
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. So excellent. Hey, Matt, we've actually gone longer than I normally do, but I've had a great time talking to you. This has been fun.
Me too.
As I wrap this up, what's one piece of pricing advice you would give our listeners that you think could have a big impact on their business?
I think especially early companies, think about what you want to price and price triple.
Love that. Tell me why you say it, but I love it.
I think so. Especially early companies, always price too low. We are one of these. We did it too. I think if people don't push back and say, "Hey, your pricing is too high," if no one ever says that, your pricing is too low.
Yeah, I like to say if you're not losing deals, your pricing is too low.
And it's it's much easier to start high and then go oops to come down than it is to go double your pricing the next day when everyone's like, hang on a minute.
Yep. Excellent. All right. Matt, thank you so much for your time today. If anybody wants to contact you, how can they do that?
Hunt me down on LinkedIn. You'll find me as Papa Bear at Bonjoro. Look for the guy in the bear suit.
Yeah. And I also have to say, I love the titles that you use at your company.
Yeah, we're a bit odd.
Yeah. All right. Episode 56 is in the can. My favorite part of today's episode, let's see. How about the fact that he was so open about whatever he was doing in price? Absolutely love that. What was your favorite part? Please let us know in the comments of wherever you downloaded and listened. And while you're at it, would you please give us a 5-star review? They're very valuable to us. And as a quick update, you all know I talk about subscriptions a lot. Well, this week, we're thrilled to be able to say we finally launched our own subscription business. A few weeks ago, we released our 3rd course on pricing metrics, and I'm currently recording a course on packaging. Now that we have all this content, we think it makes sense to offer you a subscription, which is probably going to be more affordable for you than buying the courses individually. You can find any of those at our website, championsofvalue.com. Now, besides that, if you have any questions or comments about the podcast or about pricing, feel free to email me, mark@impactpricing.com. Now, go make an impact.